Welcome back to the show, guys. My name is Alan.
My name is Jorge.
And our special guest today, Yirla Gonzalez. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
There we go. Let's go.
No, we're excited to have you on. She's from Texas. She is not native to Oregon, but she's making big moves in Oregon, and we're really excited to talk about it. She started an organization, OCW, Oregon Conferences for Women. We'll have you explain a little bit about that, but before we do, we want to get to meet you, and I'm sure other people would love to get to meet you. So where did you grow up? We'll start there.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for having me again. So my name is Yirla Rubi Gonzalez Nolan, and I am actually Mexican born. So I was born in Ciudad Victoria, Tamaulipas. I always tell my husband where all the pretty women are made. But so yes, I was born in Tamaulipas, and I was only there for about a year, and we ended up migrating to the United States, which in South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley. So we have a little thing, and I have to say it. If not, my Valley people will be upset, but it's Puro 956. But it's just a little saying that we have down there that represents our community. I was so lucky to grow up in South Texas. The Rio Grande Valley is a area that's 4 different counties, about 1.7 million people, and 95% of them are Mexican or Mexican American. So I grew up there where everybody looked and talked like me. So I was very lucky to always have that culture around me. And I grew up in Texas, and I've been in Oregon for about 2 years now. So I'm still fairly new to the area, but I've had so much fun ever since we moved here.
Well, we're happy to have you on, and that is crazy. 1.7 million people? That's a ton of people. What does Portland have? 800?
600 and something.
600, not even 700?
Yeah. Yes.
That's
well,
crazy.
and the Rio Grande Valley is 4 different counties. So between that, usually when people refer to South Texas, they refer to the RGV, and that's 4 counties with the 1.7 million people. But I love to say that because we are very different from the rest of the United States. You go and sometimes you're like, ask yourself, are we in Mexico? Or because if you go to the store, people mainly speak in Spanish. You know, you have la cultura. You go to stores and they're decorated. It's just a beautiful extension to the Mexican culture in the Rio Grande Valley.
Is that right across the border again?
Yes, it's right across the border.
What's the river?
The river.
Yeah,
It's on the river.
The Rio Grande
okay.
Valley.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at the other side, we lived in the McAllen Mission area, and we were about 10 minutes away from Reynosa, Mexico.
Oh, okay.
So we lived super close. So growing up, we would go on weekends to Mexico to get the good food, the drinks, to buy everything for your party supplies. So it was like people had families. You actually have people that live in Mexico and cross over every day to work in Texas, and then they just cross back that same evening. So that's very common over there.
That's crazy. We started watching the show. It's called what is it called? I remember what it's called, but it's about the border, the southern border, and they're like checking for like drugs and stuff, and I don't know. I love that. I love that show. But there you can see kids that they'll cross every day just to go to school, and then they'll just go back at the end of the day.
And that's the interesting part, because a lot of, I think the more north you go, the less they know about that. But I have a friend that lives over there, and every day she crosses over to go to work, and then every day she would like put it on her story like, oh, there's another 2-3 hour wait just to get over. And then every day, every morning, dude, like at 4 or 5 o'clock, se miraba.
Yes, and
Yeah,
it actually,
and it's like they're, yeah.
and people don't understand that actually takes a lot of planning. Like these people are learning so many skills just by crossing the border. Like these women, like I've met some of them, and these are people that have to have an app that tells them, like they go to I forget the website, but it's a website where you can tell how long the line's going to be. So you have to prepare hours ahead of time. Okay, la línea va a estar corta hoy, so I need to, I can take more time to cross, or I need to actually plan a little bit better. So it's just like it entails of so much. But also, one of you mentioned kids going to school. That's very common. I had a lot of friends that would go to school with me that actually lived in Reynosa. Or they maybe lived in the RGV, in that area Monday through Friday, but on the weekend they go back to Reynosa where their parents are at. But also something that's very common, because we are so close to the border, we get a lot of Mexican nationals, which usually we refer to the people with money from Mexico. So they end up coming to the Rio Grande Valley, and they buy houses for their kids. So you have a lot of young teens living on their own in these beautiful houses, by the way, because this is all, people with money, attending these public schools in Texas. But it's because their families can afford buying, that house for them and stuff, which, it's just kind of funny, right? Because a lot of people that don't live around that area, you would never guess that this is going on.
No, you would never guess that. Did you do sports?
I did do sports. I actually grew up with a pretty athletic family. So I played, of course, volleyball, basketball, but my passion was cheerleading. I cheered for over 16 years. I used to also coach cheering and stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. What do you think you learned from sports? Because a lot of people say that I consider you very entrepreneur. That's how I would consider you. Do you think that sports had anything to do with that? If it did, what do you think you got from sports that helps you in like the business life?
Okay, so just to touch on the entrepreneurship part of it, I think that actually as Latinos, or especially Mexicanos, but Latinos as a whole, it's kind of in our DNA already, being entrepreneurs. Because growing up, somebody that's selling tamales, somebody that's fixing vehicles out of their house, right? Like el mecánico, and you go to someone's house and drop it off. You remember kids in school selling candies, right? So all of that is part of our entrepreneurship DNA. We all know somebody that was selling something at one point. So I think that my entrepreneurship part of that is just part of that culture. What sports taught me, or one of the great things that I got out of sports, is community. So, and I think that's what I'm really good at right now. Wherever I go, I try to create community, hence OCW. But sports actually helped me start off with that. Because growing up, I've mentioned before, I immigrated to the United States. I was an undocumented child for a while. And you grow up very lonely when you're undocumented in the U.S. sometimes, right? Because you have your family, but a lot of the times you have to stay quiet about your experience. You can't tell people you're undocumented. If people are traveling outside, if you have a friend that invites you to, somewhere outside of your area, you might not be able to because que si te cacha la migra, things like that. So I think because of that, I felt very lonely as a child a lot of the times, even though I had my family structure there. In sports, what it taught me is that having a community around you that supports you makes you just feel very confident to start your own projects, do your own thing. So I think that's the best thing, that, and of course, leadership skills that, we obviously learn through sports.
That's interesting. I never thought about it that way, but yeah, that would make a lot of sense. You right now you're a soccer coach. How do you feel? Do you have any opinion on that?
I mean, one of my first jobs when I was younger, the owner of the company, he did an interview. And me dijo que he was looking for like people that play sports or like kind of more competitive. He's like, because this is a competitive field, and you're in sales, we want people that are competitive. I play sports, and he just kind of related everything with sports, and it kind of seems to have a trend. It kind of correlates one another. But yeah, I think it's competitive. I think it's the competitive level.
Yes, and you're definitely right. I actually have done a lot of work in the youth development sphere. I used to be the chief development officer for the Boys and Girls Club in McAllen before I moved here. And a big part of what I do, or what I would do there, is I would fundraise and do the PR for this club. And the big thing was sports. So I had to do a lot of research on it. And sports actually helps, and it's important, especially like as Latinos, let's have our kids in sports, because one, you have that community. Two, it keeps them out of trouble. But also they learn so many other skills that they can use in their professional life. So some of the most successful CEOs or leaders of companies and organizations were in sports at one point. Because you think about it, when you're in sports as a kid, you start learning leadership skills. You have to learn how to communicate with other people, right? Which is important for your profession. But also one of the things is sometimes you have kids in multiple sports and they have to deal with the schedule. Like I have my nephew, like Santi, he's in football, but also in soccer. And he has to decide, well, this tournament is very important, so I have to go to this tournament instead of, that game. So they're already starting to learn skills of how to schedule and how to find what's more important, which are skills that they're going to have to use in their professional life. So there's just so many things that sports can help, people develop new skills.
I forgot about that story, but I remember you telling me that story a really long time ago. And that might be the reason why I asked it. But I forgot about that story, but maybe I had that in the back of my
Yeah,
head.
he's a sharp guy, so yeah, I'll take his word. But yeah, I think it does show you a lot because my daughter's the same way. We have to balance all her sports, and then sometimes it's like, hey, well, you have a responsibility. You committed to play this sport, and this sport they're gonna clash within each other. You're not gonna miss practice. We have to figure it out. Y fíjate cuál es más importante y cómo lo vamos a hacer. So, and then in soccer this year, I did have a lot of kids that that they have great leadership skills already at that age. And I love seeing that because you could tell, todo es diferente. Everyone has something, but I don't know, but it all kind of comes together.
Yeah.
And did you go to college in your home area?
So I actually, so I am the first person to ever go to college on either side of my family. On my dad's side of the family, my mom's side of the family. So for me, everybody talks about the great college experience, which is awesome, and I recommend everybody having that experience. But to me, it was very tough because I didn't have anybody to ask questions, right? Of course, you have your teachers, your counselors, but a lot of times you still have questions like, I didn't even know what some terms meant just going to school, like prerequisite. I had never heard that word before in my life. And some people might think like, what? That's very common. Well, not in my life, right? Because nobody else had gone to college in my household. So I actually, when I graduated high school, I did start going to a local university, which was called PANA. They switched names since then, University of Texas Pan American. I started going there, but I actually ended up dropping out about a year and a half in there. Because what did I do? I started working, and of course, I received financial aid, but it's still very difficult, to survive. So I started working at a bank. And something I learned is that I had a lot of the skills that leaders needed. So I think within like 3 months of working at a bank with no experience ever, because I was real young, they asked me if I wanted to be a teller supervisor. I'm like, sure, I'll become a teller supervisor. And I started moving up pretty quickly at the bank, but I started getting paid pretty well, or what I thought was very well, right? So I ended up dropping out of school and I just started working. So for a while I was just in banking, but then banking is actually pretty boring for me, right? And I became kind of miserable. So later on, once I had another job and I met my husband, who thankfully supported me in going back to school, I ended up going to school at Texas A&M University, Kingsville, which is actually about 3 hours away from where I lived. So while I was already with my husband, living with him and my 2 stepdaughters, I would commute 3 times a week. And during the summer, I would end up moving over there so I can finish my school. But I ended up graduating, which was the most important part. But it was just, for me, it was a very different, weird experience as you go right after high school and you graduate and stuff.
3-hour drive there, 3-hour drive back.
Yes, which actually is not very rare in Texas, because if you know Texas, it's huge. And you have to drive a long way to just get to other cities, right? But yeah, I would commute because I'm like, no, I need my degree so I can go back to the workforce and do something that I like. So yeah, I think that took me like about 2 years of doing that back and forth, and thankfully I graduated.
That's
right after
awesome.
that.
Oh yeah, good for you.
Thank you.
I bet your parents are super proud. The first person in the family to graduate with a college degree.
They are super proud. So I was actually the first person going to college, but because I dropped out, I have my other sisters. We're only about a year and a half from each other, and then my brother's a little bit younger. But then my second sister, Daisy, went to school, and she graduated before me because I had dropped out by that point and I was working. But I went back. But yeah, I just remember, to me, it was a very confusing time. Like, I remember, I always say the story where I go to college, and one of the reasons that I want to say it is because there's a lot of Latinos probably going through this, a lot of first generation. Like, it's okay to be lost. It's okay not to know. I remember I was in class for about 2 weeks, right? And it's this class, and I'm like, okay, pumped, because I know what they're talking about. And then one day they make an announcement like, hey guys, by the way, if you're taking this class, you must have already had this prerequisite met, which is taking another course, right? And I didn't have it. So I go talk to the professor, and she's like, I'm sorry, you're like, there's no way you can take this class until you take that one. I'm like, okay, I'll fix it. I'll drop this one, take that one. But by the time I go to try to register for that prerequisite, they're like, oh, the deadline's up. Mm-hmm. So I missed the whole semester. So I missed out on those credits. So little things like that seem kind of trivial a lot of the time, for me, it added stress, because I mean, I'm lost in this big university, trying to find a building, knowing what to do. And so I say that because I want people to understand that it's common to be lost. But yeah, I had a pretty unique experience. I had my parents who were always very supportive, but they didn't know the structure of like college and what you're supposed to do. But no, my parents are super happy. They have 4 children, and my parents and I were undocumented here for a long time, and we're all U.S. citizens now. But my parents now have all their 4 children who are college graduates. 2 of them are educators, and 2 of them are business owners. So my parents say, "Oh, our dreams have come true here in the United States." So yeah,
They
so
said
they're super
parenting was
happy.
easy.
Well, my mom says the girls were not easy. The boy was the easy one, which he's the younger one. He's like, the girls me sacaron las canas verdes. But I think my parents feel very fulfilled. So yeah.
I bet. No, I remember that happened to me too. I didn't go to I didn't go to college after high school, but I think like a year after high school, I started going to community college here in the area, and I wanted to get a degree in business management. And I looked online, and it kind of showed what classes you needed to take, and then I started taking a few classes. I think I was going full time, and I ended up meeting with. Oh, before I did that, I ended up meeting with I don't know what they call them, but they're like, I guess a counselor maybe, and they're the ones that kind of help you schedule
Your
your
advisor,
stuff. Your advisor.
right, yeah.
And he told me he like signed me up for all these classes. Well, the next term, I ended up taking like 2 classes that I didn't need to take, and I didn't take classes that I did need to take. So it was like backwards. And then it was really frustrating because at that point I was paying for school. So I had to pay out of pocket for something that I didn't want to do. And then this guy was like betting money that I was gonna drop out. So then I think he probably made money because then I ended up dropping out. I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna work out. But no, it's funny that something similar like that happened to me, and I just gave up on it. It's hard when you don't know and you don't really know anybody that's been in that position. I totally understand that.
Yes. Well, and you mentioned something that's also very important that I always try to push: community college. I am a big supporter of community college. I did go to a community college, which is South Texas College, which is one of the best community colleges in all of the United States. It's in South Texas. But community college is very important, especially for Latino students, because a lot of them are first generation. When you go to a university, you're lost with the system. Community college, I feel a lot of the times they act more of like an extension of high school, where they kind of guide you a little bit more. Some still need some help, but I'm a big proponent for community college. So I'm glad to hear that that's where actually you started attending, and just education as a whole. I actually recently moving here, I met a lot of people or contacts for Western Oregon University, and I'm actually on the foundation board now, because one of the big things is that Western Oregon University is on the way to becoming an HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution. So for me, that was a big thing. Like, oh, you guys want more Latino students? Okay. But I wanted to join the board because I want to, and this is for the foundation part of it, because I want to make sure that there's money going to Latinos. If you want Latinos, you need to put money in the Latino community, and you need to put resources, because we want more Latinos, right, going to the university. So yeah, I can go on forever about education and the Latino community.
No, that's good, and we'll get into that right before we get into, because I know you were saying that you were a teller and you were moving up in the baking business. I want to know, what kind of things would you guys do for fun when you were in high school?
What would we do for fun? So I honestly, for me, I went through my party phase right after high school. In high school, it was more of like, go to school, do your work. And in Texas, something that's very big is football. So you might see it like, honestly, like football is life. So my whole world, and me, I was a cheerleader, so of course I was more entrenched in it, but everything was around what's going to happen on the weekend after the football game. I mean, and you've probably have seen memes about the big mums that girls wear. Well, I was one of them. In Texas, everybody wears their mums for homecoming, so there's these big things that you hang on yourself. So honestly, during high school, for me, I was just very involved in school and my extracurricular activities. I was in a competitive cheerleading team, so that took a lot of my time. We would travel for that. So honestly, I'm going to sound boring, but that was kind of my fun. But the crazy fun happened right after high school, so.
Oh, okay. What things would you guys do when you guys were in high school?
Dude, all we did was play soccer.
That's it?
Yeah.
Dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hang out with friends, play soccer. Es lo que hacíamos.
That's it?
Yeah.
Dude, I've been playing with my friends for years. Ya estamos viejitos, pero todavía jugamos.
Hey, my dad still plays soccer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I come from a soccer family.
We were like obviously in high school, we're not driving like freshmen or eighth grade to high school. We're all on the bikes, cold, rainy, lo que sea. Go to school, play soccer every day, dude, during the week. Those are good memories for me.
Yes.
You know, those are good memories.
But hold on, let's see how great of a soccer person you are. Chivas or America?
I
You don't want to get hate or what?
Es que no le voy a los dos, pero
Pero ¿cuál prefieres? Porque my husband and I always fight about it.
if I had to choose, just because, you know, because my team doesn't play in La Liga no more, I would say America.
Okay. My husband's booing over there.
Hey, que le va
We
la
always
América.
fight about it. Tú sí le vas a la
Yeah,
América?
yeah,
Okay, perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, we got jerseys up there.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I hadn't even noticed them. Yeah. No, my family, it's my uncles, everyone still plays soccer. They own leagues. My dad had a league and stuff, but
Oh,
That
Oh,
was
so
always-
soccer runs deep in the family then.
deep in the family. But the girls, ninguna salió soccer player. We're all dancers and cheerleaders. So my dad's like, guys, like we literally have been like, since we were very tiny, we would go like to my dad's soccer games. Pero ninguna de nosotros salimos. Así, but my brother did, and he actually got a scholarship. He didn't take it because he wanted to go to UT Austin, but he got scholarship offers from different universities. He was a big soccer player. But yeah, the soccer runs in our blood, in our family.
I can't see
Nice.
Pedro the same anymore.
The what?
I can't see Pedro the same anymore.
You know, like sometimes, like I want to say the divorce word, but se la dejo pasar.
Maybe you should start betting Pedro Chivas America.
Oh, he'd owe me a lot of beer. We have a really good buddy. Le hicimos el profe because he's a teacher. And for like, what, the last 3 years? For like the last 3 years, we've been betting on games and we've been betting 24 packs of beer. Well, out of like the last 3 years, I think we've won like maybe like 8 out of the 9 games or like 7 out of the 8 games. And he's given me, well, we got together, porque no lo dejan salir. He can't go out much. But he brought a 24-pack maybe once, maybe twice. And then one time he brought an 18-pack, and I told him that didn't count. Because we had said a 24-pack. But he still, to this day, he still owes us like 5 24-packs or something like that. I'm still keeping tabs. I have it on my notes on my phone.
That's funny because
But-
Pedro actually, the person that he competes the most with, the Chivas America, is my mom. Because my mom's an America fan. And Pedro's a Chivas, and they're always betting each other. Okay, you're going to wear this jersey, and I don't know what. So, yeah.
So Pedro's always wearing an America jersey now because he's always losing?
Porque así siempre pierde.
That's awesome. Heck yeah. Well, you were saying that you got into the banking industry. What did you do after the banking industry? You were saying earlier that you were commenting that you weren't really happy with it. After a while, it kind of got boring for you.
Yeah, so it got boring for me. One, numbers. I've never been strong, with numbers. So, and honestly, I always say this because I started banking saying I had all this experience, but I'm a true believer. Sometimes you fake it till you make it. Like, you have to have all this cash register experience. I was 19. I had never worked in my life, but I'm like, yeah, I worked at this convenience store because my ex-boyfriend at that point owned a convenience store. I was like, oh yeah, and I used to work the cash register. Nada que ver, right? I start working and my manager's like, I don't think you have any experience because you don't even know how to count money. But I learned fast. So I did that, got pretty bored about it for a while. I went back to school, but then when I got out of school, that's where I was really thinking, what is it that I want to do in my life? What's going to keep me happy? And honestly, one of the things for me was always, I'm the kind of person that I need to make sure that whatever work I'm doing, it's for the better, good of our community, or whether it's my community is the city, the state, the country. I want to make sure that I'm doing something good. So I actually graduated, and pretty quickly I got an offer to work for the March of Dimes, which is a national nonprofit. It's a very big nonprofit. I also just started by kind of helping them in the office, and right away, I think like within a month or two, they're like, we think you'll be a great executive director. And I'm like, what? An executive director? They're like, you have the skills. And a lot of it for them is like the personality. Are you somebody that can go talk to people, ask them for money, make them feel like their money's going to be put into play, in a good way? So then that's, I just kind of stuck in nonprofit. I was the executive director at March of Dimes. After that, I was president for the Women's Business Center. So we did a lot of business consulting for women business owners. So if you're a woman and you want to start a business but you don't know how to do it, you would go and see me and I would help you create that business. And then after that is when I went to Boys and Girls Club as a chief development officer, which has been honestly one of the most fun and great organizations I've ever been a part of. I was there for about 6-7 years before I ended up moving over here. So I've been in the nonprofit fundraising and a lot of communications and media.
Got it. And then you moved to Oregon, and now can you talk a little bit about the organization that you guys have created now?
Yes, of course. So I moved to Oregon about 2 years ago, not knowing what I was going to do, right? I come from the Rio Grande Valley where I was very involved in my community. I was involved in organizations, served on boards. And then my husband one day calls me and he's like, hey, they offered me a job, but we need to respond in 15 minutes. And by the way, it's in Oregon. And I'm like, Oregon? I've never even thought about Oregon, right? At that point. And he's like, yeah, it's just they're offering me the position if I want it, but they need to know pretty fast. He caught me at a good time because honestly, and this is honestly my answer, I think the only way I responded, I was like, F it, let's do it. Let's go for it. We'll see what happens. But after some weeks, I started thinking like, oh my God, I don't know anybody in Oregon. Like I knew absolutely zero people. And I think my husband, Pedro, only knew one person out here. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? And I was thinking, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get myself involved in organizations that I was involved in over there, right? So I looked for something. At that point, I was the president of a junior league in McAllen. Well, there's no junior league here. The closest is important. And I was looking for other organizations. I couldn't find it. I remember turning to Pedro and I'm like, hey, like, I can't find the group of women or that community that I'm involved here. I can't find something similar in Salem. Like, I don't know what to do. How am I going to meet friends? And he's like, well, if you can't find it, create it. And then that like kind of just like stuck with me. I was like, create it. You know what? Yes, because if it's not there, like they probably need it. Anyways, we ended up moving and I ended up meeting that one person that my husband knew, which ends up being Jake Espinosa. He's very involved here in the community, who has been amazing. He started introducing me to people. But then the whole time here, I was like, okay, this is going to be like a dating game for me. Like, I'm going to put myself out there and start dating for friends, right? So I go on what I call amiga dates. I literally, I meet somebody that I like. I'm like, hey, you want to go on an amiga date? Let's go for coffee. I want to get to know you. So that's how I was building my community, right? Getting to know women. And through that, I met two other amazing ladies, which is Sarah No and Luz, who, as we're talking, they're two Latinas who were kind of feeling the same thing that I was feeling. Like, you know what? We want to empower other women, especially those professional women, with skills development, but we don't really have anything here. So I had mentioned, like, you know what? I have this idea. This is what I used to run in Texas. And we just kind of together, us, the trio, we put all our ideas together. We all had our passions, right? Our background with passions. And we put our ideas together. And March 2024 is when we made it a business. And we just had our first conference July. It was early July, and we're about to have our second conference. But it was just really out of necessity, where going back to what I mentioned earlier, I'm really good at creating community. So I wanted to create my own community of women, supportive women that can help each other. And that's where all of that came from.
Was it difficult? Was it what you thought, creating an organization like this?
You know what? So sometimes I'm kind of like, I sit back at home, I'm like, oh my God, this has been super easy.
Or did the all the pieces just come together at the right time?
They did. And so one of the things that I was afraid of too was, I come from South Texas, where everybody looks like me and sounds like me, right? We're all Mexicanos, Mexican American. There's different people like morenitos, güeritos, todos somos, diferentes, pero we all speak the same language and the same culture. Moving to Oregon, I knew that I was going to be the first time I lived somewhere where I'm the minority. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to these spaces. I'm not the majority anymore. I'm the minority. How are they going to accept me? But not only that, how are they going to accept my ideas, right? And I actually, the Salem community has been wonderful, very loving, very open arms. I've met so many amazing people out here. And I think it was just something that was needed here. Oregon is advanced in so many things, but one of the things that I think Oregon is still a little bit behind is the female empowerment and the Latino empowerment movement. So it's like, is there organizations? Is there platforms for women professionals or even Latinos? And I know I've seen some out there, but what I'm trying to find is a better way for everyone to come together and collaborate, as opposed to everybody trying to do the same thing in many different ways. I think it's just the community, the way that the community kind of accepted me with open arms. It's been super easy.
That's awesome. You said that you knew you were going to be the minority coming to Oregon. What were your thoughts about Oregon before you moved here?
Good question. So I did a lot of research beforehand, right? Because for me, I was like, pues, ¿a dónde me va a llevar Pedro, verdad? And I was like, all I care about is somewhere where I can be safe, like, so whatever community we move to is safe. But I had two kind of views of Oregon. So one is like the whole like hippie granola part of it, right? More of the Portland area, because that's what you hear people talk about. But then the one that scared me was a more rural Oregon or like the southern Oregon, right? Because, okay, am I safe to drive around there on my own, and stuff like that? Because even like living in Texas, sure, I grew up in South Texas where everybody looks like me, but there's part of Texas, like there's other places in Texas where you probably shouldn't be driving after 5 p.m.
Really?
Yeah, because there's still, they call them sundown towns. So it's very scary for somebody of color. So I was like, okay, is it going to be like that? But honestly, just moving here, I spent a lot of time in Salem, Kaiser, some time in Portland. Everybody's super nice. I feel like I don't know if I'm just lucky because sometimes I hear people like, oh, people are rude or everybody stays to themselves. But I've had a great experience with everyone I've met here.
I think it's also how you approach things because you seem like you have a very like bubbly personality. Like you just want to like conversate with people, and I feel like people can read that energy. And if they read that energy, and you kind of like look at someone as you're walking by, you'll like smile and you'll kind of maybe nod your head or something like that. But then there's some people that just have like this guy. If this guy goes to the grocery store, I wouldn't even nod my head at him. He's got kind of like the cold face. I think everybody gets a different experience. To be honest, what do you think?
No, I think that's what it is. I mean, humans they're on the defense, right? When you're walking in the street
they're on
or
the
everything,
defense,
they're all trying to, no, they're not trying. They're just, así, naturalmente así son, right? And then there's going to be people are just really, they'll just say hi to everybody. And I just kind of like, I don't know if the right word is break the ice, but you're like, oh, hey back, right? So, I mean, that's how human nature is, dude.
Yes. Well, and to me, I guess I learned pretty early on, and a lot of it has to do with like, sometimes like growing up that you feel lonely, so you're the one exploring this world on your own. It's like, okay, if you smile, if sometimes you're gonna be the first one to smile, but at least you'll get other people to smile. Mm-hmm. You might be the first one to talk and it's gonna feel awkward, like, oh, are they gonna think I'm rude or are they gonna get annoyed? But at least you get it going, and other people, I think a lot of us just wait for other people to do it first. And I think, I knew that moving here, I had to initiate a lot of this because I'm the new person. And thankfully, a lot of people have been open to making a new friend with me.
That's good. Heck yeah. Are you surprised with the amount of Latinos that there are in Oregon? Like, is there more than you originally thought? Is there less than you originally thought?
So I know, I think right now that Oregon, about 30% is Latino, right? Which I kind of assume it was going to be around the area, like thinking of like states. But what I was surprised is that moving here, one of the first things I tried to do was getting myself involved. So I would go to chamber events. I would go to other organization events. And oftentimes I was the only Latina. So at first I was like, how is Oregon 30% Latino and these rooms, it's not the same. I'm literally the only Latina. So that was one thing that I started kind of asking questions, especially when I would meet a Latino, like, well, where do we hang out? What organizations do we support? And that was one of the things that I saw, that in Oregon, there's so many Latinos and so many Latinos doing amazing things, but not everyone's connected. So that's my thing. I was like, okay, well, how do we connect everyone? Because there's so many people doing amazing things. Imagine doing amazing things together. So I kind of knew, okay, I was coming into somewhere where 30% are Latinos, but in these public spaces, I was like, well, where's the Latinos? Like, I couldn't see them. So that's what surprised me. Like, I wouldn't see them out in public in these events. And that's where I was kind of wondering where everyone's at.
Well, did you see even Latino male at these kind of events?
Honestly, not even. No. Like, if there was a Latino event, it's usually a male. But even at that, it wasn't a lot.
But like at the chambers kind of thing, you wouldn't really see even Latino men there, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. And it's funny you say that because I've been following the chamber for a while, and I had a couple bosses that were involved with that. But whenever I would see pictures and stuff, I would always just see older, older people, and never Latinos. And last time we had a conversation, something you said kind of blew my mind. You were talking about a friend, or that specifically you were talking about a friend that you have in Texas that owns a business, and it does multiple millions of dollars in revenue, but you're like, that's normal over there. When you're growing up, you're looking up at these other Latinos that look like us, and they have very successful businesses. Well, that's not what we see here. It's not very common for us to look at another Latino that's doing really, really, really good. It's not very common. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because there are, but I can probably, like, people that I know, I can probably count them in one hand. And they're mostly older Mexican men, right? But when you said that, I'm like, that is true. I'm like, well, there isn't a space where people get together like that, and people don't really grow up looking at that. So I'm like, yeah, that kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference. And I know like the chamber here has great leadership. And I know that they have initiatives where they're trying to do this, but I really do think that a lot of this needs to be initiated through our community. So that's why when my partners and myself started Oregon Conferences for Women, one of the big things for us was like, look, we're having this event and we know that there's going to be the majority is going to be there. But how do we get more minority women there, not only Latinas, any other kind of minority in there, because we want to make sure that they also have these resources, right? And they need to see themselves as leaders. So one of the things is that we make sure to also push to the Latino community. So we already know what kind of food we like to eat, qué restaurantes vamos a ir a agarrar los tacos, all this stuff. So we're meeting these people out there. And you can even ask my husband, sometimes we go eat somewhere. Oh, we were at a festival and there's this girl selling t-shirts. And I'm like, is this your business? She's like, yeah. I'm like, you need to get involved with us. And I tell her all this stuff. And she's like, I didn't even realize this was out here. So a lot of it is just like kind of doing the work out in the street, right? When I meet people and stuff. But I was real happy when we had our first conference in July, where probably half of the room was majority, right? It was white women, which we love and we want there, but also half of the room was minority. And I love seeing that, not just because I want to help, minority women be out there and learn these skills, but because once you have every culture in the room, collaboration, there's so many amazing things you can do, right? Because we're gonna have some strengths that they wanna, get from us, and they have some strengths that we want to learn from them. So, I mean, I just feel the power is in numbers, but I do think that more within our community, us that we have voices, right? To do that movement, and like maybe you show up to the chamber, and the next time you bring another friend, and the following one another friend, and just kind of grow it like that. Because I think it's going to take us to do it.
For sure it will. And OCW, Oregon Conferences for Women, is what the organization is called. The event that you have coming up, it's going to be November 16th. Obviously, right now it's 2024. But I saw that the name of the event is Mentorship and Networking. Is that really what the organization is about, or is it just more broader than that? But that's what you guys are specifically focusing on this for this event.
Yeah, so the organization's way broader than that, and it's growing, and we have so many great ideas coming up. Right now, our focus is on quarterly conferences, and every quarter we're going to have a different topic. And we always think, and we even ask the people that have attended through our social media, what is it that you want to hear? Or what is it that you're struggling with? Because that's how we kind of craft our conferences. So our first conference was on branding, personal branding, because we have a lot of business owners or even professionals. And what's one of the things that you have to be good at? How to brand yourself, because that's how you get raises, that's how you move up in a company or receive business. But when we went out, a lot of women were saying, like, I need more of a support system. And like when I need something, I don't know to go to. And for me, what I kept hearing is they don't have enough mentors, or they don't have other people that they're collaborating with in the community. So that's why we decided on this topic. And next year, we're going to have 4 conferences, and they're all going to be different topics. And these are just topics that really will affect what the women experience in the background, right? But yeah, mentorship and collaboration is one thing that kept popping up here. And I think a lot of it is also because we do have a lot of Latinas that are involved, and a lot of them are saying, like, I'm not seeing people that look like me, doing these things. So how am I even sure that I can do it? And the beautiful thing about mentorship is one of the biggest things it does is opens doors for you. Not only do you learn from someone who's already been through it, but it opens doors, the same thing as collaboration or slash networking. If you look at research right now, most jobs in America are actually, you're getting them by your network. Who do you know? They're going to refer you. They're going to put in a good word for you. So that's why we want to focus on that right now.
What would be your advice to finding a mentor?
So I think one of the things is, first of all, you personally doing some strategic planning, some planning. What is it that you even need a mentor for, right? Most of the time, a mentor is somebody that can share their experiences. Your mentor is not necessarily going to tell you what to do. They share their experiences, and they probably have already been there, done that. And they tell you what kind of roads you can take, right? Your decisions are still going to be yours, but I would say first, try to figure out what exactly are you wanting from a mentor. 2, try to find somebody, like, let's say most of us want a mentor because of our professional life, right? Whether I want to be a podcaster, whether I'm in banking, I want to find somebody that's going to make this avenue easier for me. So find somebody who, the age doesn't matter, because sometimes we have people that are younger than us that have more experience than us, right? Because our lives are different and experiences are different. But look for somebody that has already been through a lot of that, and somebody that's willing to meet with you. And also, you're going to take advantage of every 30 minutes you get with that person, whether it's once a month, once a quarter. Always come ready with questions. Always come ready with ideas, because you don't want to waste their time, but most importantly, you don't want to waste your own time. If you get 30 minutes with that person once a month, you need to come ready with, this is what I want to talk about. Like, what do you think? And basically that person's going to be more of, they're going to guide the conversations. They're going to tell you their experiences, so you can kind of compare to yours and see if you want to go that avenue, separate avenue. You can actually use a mentor for so many big things. But I would say that the big thing is look for an expert in that field, or somebody who's already been there. And especially if they had a rough time going through their experience or professional life, I think that's always the best mentor, because they can tell you what's hard and what not to do. And that's what I like to learn from people. What should I avoid?
For me, even if I find a person that I would be like, oh, I think I would love to have that person as my mentor, then I get stuck with, well, what am I going to ask them now? Or it's like, maybe if you had you had a very important question, and it's like, I guess there's no right or wrong answers, but it's like, how often do you think someone should be checking in with a mentor? And then, like, should you how do you manage that relationship between you and a mentor?
That's a great question, because that actually does change between person, and also depending on the mentor you have. Some people have more than one mentor. So I think a lot of it is looking at the person as a whole, right? If it's a big executive for, like, let's say a big company that's willing to mentor you, you might not be able to get in their schedule every month. But if you can do it once a quarter, that's awesome. But you can still look for that other mentor that you can get there once a month, right? I always say keep the meetings on the shorter side, no more than 30 minutes. And even talk to your mentor ahead of time. Like, this is what I would love this to look like. When we sit down, can you ask me questions like, Yirla, what's going on in your life? And then, if I mention things, question me as to why I made those decisions, or, stuff like that. So you can even kind of guide your mentor as to what you want from them. And then the other thing is always, come up with the questions. It's kind of like if you're sitting down and kind of reviewing your goals and where you're at in your goals before you get to the mentor, so you can have those conversations going. But it is going to look different between everyone. A lot of it is just going to be relationship building, how comfortable you feel with them. Sometimes you might get people to say, I'm too busy to be a mentor. I can't mentor you. And that's completely fine. You prefer somebody to be very clear about it and tell you ahead of time, as opposed to you waiting on somebody that you look up to and they're never there, and it gives you a sour taste in your mouth. So I would say relationship building, take them out for coffee. Tell them what you want. These are my aspirations. Is this something that, you're willing to have a conversation with me once a month and stuff? So I say once a month is usually pretty good, but there's some that's going to be once a quarter, and that's completely fine.
Another important thing that this event is specifically going to be about is networking. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of networking? Because I know you said most jobs now you get from someone referring you to a job. And I guess that's like the perfect way, because they're vouching for you essentially.
Yes. And so networking has gotten a very bad reputation, because a lot of the times when you think about networking is you're going to go to a place, everybody's going to try to sell you what they do for their business, right? Or everybody's just exchanging cards, and you don't really get to meet anybody because everybody wants to talk about their business. So that's where it got a very bad reputation. And there's some people that are very networking adverse. They don't want to do it anymore. For me, networking, what I like to call it is relationship building. So networking is just getting to know people, getting to know their what and their why. What is it that they're doing and why is it important for them, and for them to know yours too. Because what happens is you create that relationship and you create a buy-in. So that person ends up becoming your cheerleader, right? I was reading some research, and I think it was about like 60-something% of jobs nowadays are gained through networks. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's just who you know. Well, yeah, because you've created a relationship, and that person knows you, as opposed to just a resume, which is black and white, and oh, this is what I do, right? It's because you spend time relationship building. I have actually, every single job I've ever received, I'm like trying to remember, after banking, every other job was through relationship building. So the March of Dimes is because somebody told me, hey, I know they need some help here. I think you would be great. Would you be interested? I'm like, sure. Thank you for considering me. They connected me, and that's how I got the job. The same thing with the Women's Business Center. Their president at that point is like, hey, I'm leaving, but I would love for somebody, to take over. I think you have the skills. The same thing with Boys and Girls Club. So it's happened with me my whole entire professional life. And that's honestly how a lot of people are getting those. So I say people should take advantage of networking for your professional life, but also professional. I met some of my best friends through, just networking, building those relationships out in public with them.
Got it. And I have a question, I guess, advice for us specifically. So, like, for example, us, we meet guests every week, and some people we've never met before, and then they come on our podcast and we have a great conversation. So we network with them that way. But how would you recommend us kind of still keeping in touch with them? Because it's like, obviously, it's like we're not going to see them every month. We can't see everybody every month. But what advice would you have for us in a form of like still keeping in touch with people?
That's actually a great question, because my husband and I always talk about this, because I'm great at networking. I've been doing this forever. My husband, sometimes I would try to convince him. He was always very busy at work. And I'm like, you have to network. You have to go create relationships. And he would always say, man, one of the really good things you're at, Yirla, is the follow through, which is really actually probably the most important. Everybody goes to an event. You're going to meet someone. You're going to sound interested. Oh, I want to get to know you. But really, the magic happens when you actually follow through afterwards. Hey, Yirla, or hey, Pedro, do you have 30 minutes of time? Let's go for coffee. And coffee is always great because, one, people don't feel pressure like, oh, I have to stay there a whole hour. What if I don't like this person, on the personal level? Also, like, okay, well, lunch. Who's going to buy lunch? This and that. All of that can be very confusing. I think one of the best ways is just coffee, right? Like, hey, can we meet up for coffee? Which is kind of what I've been doing with my Amiga dates, networking with people. And then I always try to find things in common, right? And you guys have the luxury that you get to know him here. You're going to get to know them here. You're going to find things in common. So let's say somebody else mentioned that they played soccer. Well, now you know that you can reach out. It's like, hey, we actually vamos a tener una cascarita. Like, you want to join, this weekend. and then you did a follow through. You actually connected with him afterwards.
Hey, Pedro, did you see the America and Chivas game?
Exactly. You see how America beat Chivas?
That was a great game.
He's not gonna let that go.
For the next game.
He's not gonna let that go.
He's like, nope.
No, we're not even bad compared to my mom. My mom, he makes fun of him a lot. But yeah, so it's just like always try to find those things in common. And I think the reason I got really good at it is because I would do a lot of fundraising, and I have to do this when I meet people and basically ask them for their money, right? But yeah, follow through, always a coffee date, or just call them like coffee. You don't have to call it a date. And then find that thing in common where you can connect other than just business. Because a lot of people think, oh, business is like, well, yeah, you're going to want me to sponsor your something, or you're trying to create a transaction. I always try to find something besides that where you can connect with that person.
Makes sense, yeah.
What do you think?
No, that's good, yeah. Because yo siempre le digo, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because it was kind of echoing. Siempre le digo, oh, okay, tenemos la gente, pero ahora que estamos haciendo también, ¿verdad? How are we going to follow up with them, right? ¿Qué nos sirve tener 100 personas aquí? And de esas 100, we're not going to have maybe the closest relationship with all 100, but maybe with 20 of them or 30 of them. So, ¿cómo le hacemos en ese sentido?
Sí, sáquenlos para coffee. Ahora, yeah, like you guys have been doing this for a while and you have so many people. Well, another easy way to stay in contact with them, send them a newsletter that's just for your past speakers. Like, hey, ¿cómo estamos? Just following up, thank you for being a past speaker. This is what we have going on nowadays. Because then from there, you're going to get people that are going to be like, hey, I still want to be involved with you guys. I like you guys. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll sponsor one of your shows or do this, do that. So newsletters in that aspect is a great way. Create events. Hey, guys, once a year for Christmas, let's say, the Christmas time, we're going to have an event for all our past speakers. Because it gives you another chance to maybe network with them again. And just tell them, oh, we'll have free hors d'oeuvres, but drinks are on your own or whatever. Have them come by, and people like to interact with other people. So that's another way that you can stay connected without having to have a full schedule all the time.
I do like the events because I had told them, dude, we should do an event. All our past guests that have been in our show, hacemos eso y everyone's going to show, not everyone, but todos van a querer, van a traer sus amistades y todo eso. So.
I know, I'm like, dude, what if they don't like us, dude?
No, you guys are very likable, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, events are great. And one thing with the event, like more of those like mixers or networking, is that just make it very casual where people just have conversations. You go up and speak for a bit, and then your job there is really going to be making sure people create relationships with other people. Because remember, what you're doing is you're creating your community there. So your community of speakers, and you guys are the ones guiding all of that. I think that's a great idea if you guys ever want to do an event.
Yeah, see? Sí sabes, morro.
Ándale, te voy a decir que ahora you're in charge.
Yeah. No, this guy comes out with all the ideas, and then sometimes I can tell it's a good idea, but the whole idea is not there yet. But the start of it is, and then he throws it at me and then wants me to figure out how to execute the idea, and I'm like, bro.
Well, can I tell you what you guys are missing?
What?
And I hope nobody gives me, can I cuss here?
Yeah,
nobody gives me shit for it, but honestly, you guys need a woman. You need a woman because women are good at not only planning and executing ideas, but they're very strategic, right? Like, women are raising kids, women are working, they're doing a million things at a time, right? So you need a woman, no se le va a atorar nada. Mm-hmm. And of course, a lot of times we're more creative because we have to do a lot of stuff and get creative with the things we do. So yeah, you guys need a woman que les ayude con todo eso.
We talked about that. I think that's a good idea. We need to find someone that will flick shit right back at us, Yeah.
No, sí, necesitamos algo porque a lot of the times, I'm not saying that, I have the great idea. I'm just saying, hey, I have an idea, but te estoy hablando para ver qué hacemos.
I'm saying sometimes he does have a great idea. Not that he said it was a great idea.
Yeah.
I say sometimes he does have a great idea, but then he expects me to execute it, and then when it's not the way he likes it, he's like, dude, that's not what I meant. I'm like, bro, no me dijiste cómo.
Great ideas are only great ideas when there's execution behind it, but a woman will help you do that.
Sí.
¿La ves?
Sí.
Ustedes son los artistas del show, and then you can have somebody, help you just kind of like lay down the law.
John, you're fired.
You're fired.
No, he's an expert over there. He's making us all look very pretty on video, so he has his job.
He's like, damn.
So, what did I get myself
I'm
into?
still a tacos. I'm just saying.
We pay him with tacos.
With taco, okay, that's the best way to get paid. If you look at my Instagram, I say that I'm a taco connoisseur because that's my favorite thing to eat, Mexican tacos. And I know we had this conversation last time. Mexico has better tacos than California, but I'm going to get so much hate.
Mexico and California?
Texas.
Texas has better tacos than California, and I'm going to get so much hate for it. But yeah, I love tacos that even my husband, I think it was for Valentine's Day, gave me a gold necklace, and it's real gold, and it's a taco.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
I should have worn it today.
You should have worn it.
I should have worn it, but that's how much I love tacos. So that's the best way to get paid.
Well, go ahead.
Juanito's actually from Texas.
Oh, from where, Juanito?
Houston area.
Houston area, okay.
He's
Well,
the
Houston
ops.
is still pretty far away from us because...
Oh, really?
Yes, because we were way down south. Just to get out of Texas from where we lived at is 15 hours.
To
Texas
get out?
is huge. Yes. Texas is
See,
huge.
they're far
What do you-
enough away from Houston that they're not technically right around the corner anymore. Like anything under like 6 hours is kind of right around the corner. Over 6 hours, you're in a different part of Texas.
Really?
It's like a completely different.
Wow.
I don't want to say country, but different state almost. It's
Interesting.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Dang.
I
Houston
didn't
is
know
kind
that.
of like we have a lot of people are connected to Houston and the Valley. So it's like, oh, we're going to go Houston for like a long weekend and go hang out. So it's not like just you drive up and down every day. It's still,
Yeah.
I think it's what, 5-6 hours, right?
I don't know.
From the valley?
5.5
5.5, yeah.
Do you miss Tex-Mex?
The what?
Tex-Mex.
I miss Tex-Mex food,
Queso or-
the queso.
Yeah, it's so good.
The queso. But you know what I miss the most, and I'm surprised that here is not very common. So in Texas, especially in South Texas, tacos are a big thing, right? So you go to a taqueria and you have tacos, but they also give you the option to do the combo, which is with the papa asada. And people here don't really sell papa asadas.
I'm not really sure what papasada is. Have you
Oh
had
my
it?
God.
I don't know what that
So
is.
it's a papa with like cheese, butter, but they also mix in like the bistec
Like
or whatever.
like a baked potato?
Yeah, like a
Okay.
baked potato, but like with meat and like your cheese and all that stuff. The most amazing thing ever. But here they don't really make them. So we were just in Texas and I'm like, I need my papa asada. So we went to a taqueria to get that and the tacos. You always have to have your papa asada next to the tacos.
There you go. No, I'm crazy about bacon wrapped hot dogs.
Hey,
When we
oh.
went to LA, and they have bacon wrapped hot dogs. Now every time I go to LA, I'm like, we have to go get bacon wrapped hot dogs.
They're so good.
I'm like, hands down, I would rather go there than any restaurant. I'm like, that's my favorite. That's my favorite thing.
No, then you and Pedro can go eat bacon wrapped
He
hot
likes that
dogs.
too.
Se van a los
Oh my God.
callejones.
Well, I
We
saw
would-
that he had a wrapped hot dog, but in a tortilla, and he said that was big in Texas.
Oh, yes. No, but he actually also likes, so the pulga, the flea market where we lived at, it was a pretty big one. And sometimes I don't want to go because Texas is super hot, right? So I'm like, oh, to be in at the pulga, super hot. But we would sometimes just go just for the bacon wrapped hot dog. Because
Really?
there's this guy that has his little carrito, callejero, making the hot dogs. And then, like, it's bacon wrapped. Sometimes they even put extra stuff like cheese, pico de gallo on it. And we would go just because of that, because he was craving it.
Dang.
And the thing is, I don't know what makes him so good because cuando estamos en Los Ángeles, eran los callejones or just, like con su carrito.
Uh-huh.
And then here in the stadiums, like after a game, and then here, I see them here in Portland after concerts or stadiums. They're not the same though. They have
It
not the
has
same
to
flavor.
be, you have to buy it from the street. It's a rule.
But that's from the street
No,
though.
but
No,
That's
these
what I
people
was-
are from
oh.
LA though. I was talking with one of the vendors outside the Peso Pluma concert, hey, and she was telling me que se los traen a todos y se traen todos los carritos en una troca, and they specifically go to concerts.
But they're not good.
But I know they're not. I'm not arguing with you. I'm
Yeah.
agreeing with you. But it's the same people, same everything. But
Yeah,
they don't
so
taste the
I
same.
started seeing them like probably a year and a half ago, like concerts or sporting events. Están afuera del estadio con su carrito, and I didn't like them. I tried them twice, different times, and disappointed. But
I'll still eat them though.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
not the same. Got to be in LA.
He's too picky. But
Oh,
no,
you're the picky
he's-
food eater.
he's
I'm kind of picky
Oh.
too.
He's picky.
My husband's the one that's not picky at all. I'm a little
No.
bit more picky because I don't eat a lot of different kinds of meats. Even though I grew up super Mexican, where like my dad makes barbacoa and pozo, cabrito, like everything he does. And menudo, pozole, but I was the only one in my family that was like, no, I don't like cabrito. I don't like pork. I don't like all this stuff.
Dang.
And pizza, he's traveled all around the world, so he's eaten a lot of crazy stuff, or what I consider crazy
The funny
stuff.
thing is that for me, I'm not picky. He's the picky one for eating. I
Really?
I don't think so.
I like trying new food. Todo es diferente.
Oh, yeah, in that regard,
And
yes.
él no, él se queda lo mismo.
I'm the type of guy that'll go to the restaurant and order the same thing at the restaurant. And then I'll go to another restaurant and then I'll order what I usually order.
But
So if I go to a
a
restaurant, I always want to get mole enchiladas. I always want to try people's mole. I love mole, and everybody's mole is a little bit different. If I go to a taco shop, I will get the same meat, unless I'm feeling fancy and then I get tripa one day. But usually it's just pastor.
Yeah, so
Burgers.
you seem like the pickier one.
Yeah,
I
he's a
feel.
picky one. Because when we go out, I'm like, let's go
But-
here. He's like, I was like, if you want to go, we could go. I'm like,
I don't think I'm picky though, because
You are.
like, dude, you won't even go to Applebee's.
I do
You're
go to Applebee's.
No, you were telling me that you're too cool for Applebee's now.
No.
What?
So
Okay, explain yourself.
when we're young, and it's like nostalgic, right? So when we're young, me and my wife, cuando estamos jóvenes, we would go to Applebee's with my daughter. She was like a year old, right? And we would go there often. And then out of nowhere, we just stopped going. Like, I don't know why. And then when we went back, ya estábamos más grandes, the food wasn't the same, right? And you know how they say that the more food you try, the more or better quality food you try, como que ya,
You expand your palate.
¿verdad? And then you try different types of foods and different qualities. You kind of know what there is. And I told him, look, we used to think that Applebee's was really, really cool, when we were young. Now it's like, it's just there, right? It's not a big deal. Yeah, we'll go once in a while, once in a blue moon, just to have that bond again with the family, kind of like, remember when we used to come here all the time? But that was the only thing. Pero todo lo demás, I'll go and eat it. It doesn't matter, but I don't know. I'm not picky. I say I'm not picky.
Oh my god.
We have different definitions of picky then. I've never been. He's been to Texas. I don't remember if I asked you if you like California or Texas food better, but I'll ask you later. I'll ask you
Careful how
later.
you
Yeah, don't
answer
ask
that.
me.
But
Yeah,
I'm
someone
gonna be
from
honest.
California and someone from Texas.
I know.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. The only reference of Texan food that I know is Juanito. But his judgment in food is not really good. So Texas is not really looking good. And I have been to California, and I love California food.
No, Pedro, we have to take him to Texas. We would take you to where we're from, so right by the border, so you have great Mexican food. And also, just in the same day, we can take you to Progreso, so we cross the border, we day drink over there with even more amazing food and come back. The experience, like for your palate, will be amazing.
Pedro will take me to the worst spot so I can say California food's better.
No, I think Pedro is from California, just for everybody watching, and they don't just hate on me. And he thinks Texas Mexican food's better.
It's a balance. If you're looking at it's different parts of Mexico. It's la frontera del norte in Texas, and over here is the Pacifico. So if you want seafood, everything, California is way better. But if you want like asada, Texas is way better.
That's true.
Texas.
He's trying to be in the middle. He doesn't want anybody to hate on him, but he usually says it's Texas.
I forgot where I was going with the better food, but yeah, John. Oh, this is where I was going with it. We were talking about John's form of payment. So when John does a good job, we'll take him to Mexican tacos. But when he doesn't do a good job, he gets Taco Bell.
Taco Bell that was voted like the best Mexican food
Yeah.
in the United States.
Wow.
Remember that years ago?
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like he doesn't do a good job on purpose because he wants Taco Bell. So I'm like,
No.
I'm trying to figure it out, but so
How do I get that deal though? Like where I get paid in tacos. Like that's the best deal ever if you ask me.
see, that's what I'm saying.
Per hour, but it usually still takes.
So you need to step up your game, dude, because we're already looking for a girl, and they love tacos. So
I was trying to get you guys to get an AI, co-host, but you guys weren't into that.
That's funny.
so and I was gonna ask you because I know we asked Pedro last time about if he liked California food and Texas food, and he had a hard time answering that, but he did answer it. And I know that if I ask you that, you're gonna say Texas right away.
If it has sour cream, it's not Mexican food.
Agreed.
And they tend to do that a lot on the Pacific Northwest.
They do a lot
and on
here.
the west side, yeah.
They do that a lot here.
Because Mexico has something similar, but it's crema, but it's still different. It tastes different. So yeah,
It looks different.
it looks different too. Yeah.
But Reynosa food and Texas food.
Reynosa, hands down. Oh,
Hands
if it's
down.
Mexico, nothing competes with Mexican. Like Mexican food, ahí lo mejor. And then Reynosa, it has to be from the carrito. Like street food is the best. I know a lot of people, like sometimes when they travel, oh, I'm not gonna eat that. No, the best is the street food. So we usually would cross to Reynosa or Progreso on weekends just to go eat. Like on Saturdays, like with my family, we would just go over to cross and eat and just come back. And we still would do it when we were living there, but in Progreso. And yeah, because the food is amazing.
So you go to Progreso. What are you going to go eat?
When we go to Progreso, we usually go to this. I don't remember the name. It's because I don't think they have the name, but it's this carrito. I think it's color green, right, Pedro? It's a green carrito that they have there. I always get taquitos de bistec. I like that, but Progreso also has really good lonches Progreso. I think that's what they call them. So it's like little lonches, like bolillo, but they're tiny bolillos with meat and bistec, which here they call it asada. Yeah, it's asada, but over there we call it bistec.
They're like 5 little mini tortas about that
Yeah.
big, and then they stuff them with asada, aguacate, cilantro, everything on top.
Yeah.
And you eat them.
And you always
okay.
have to have the spiciest salsa. And then I drink Diet Coke, but when I'm over there, I have to drink the Coke and envase and stuff. So for me, it's like we go prepared. I'm going to get my orden de taquitos con la soda and salsa.
Whew.
It's the best.
How do you feel about Oregon tacos?
Oregon tacos. So I don't want to say, the thing is like the food in Oregon is very different from what I'm used to. So I remember moving here, Pete and I were like, let's find amazing Mexican food. And we were just like, we weren't finding what we wanted, but we just came to realize, well, it's because the food is different. Like, you know, like the culture still changes a bit. And I've learned to like it a lot more. There's actually this one taco stand here in Salem. It's outside what store, Pedro?
Torito.
El Torito. And I guess they're
Okay.
only open on weekends and the rest of the weekend. That's like the closest to what we get over there, and we love it. But it's so rare because you can only go on a weekend, I think, at a certain time.
I really like the post that you posted earlier, and then that you asked people if they had questions for you. Did you get any replies to that?
So I did. I remember one off the top of my head, and the rest I would have to check my phone.
Earlier, she had posted on her Instagram, seeing what questions people had. So we're just gonna answer a few of the questions. And one of the first question that I'll ask you is, someone on your Instagram had gone to one of your events, and you had talked a little bit about your immigration story, and she wants to know a little bit more about that. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yes, I have. I wanted to say a unique, but it's not unique because actually a lot of people have been through this here in America. But I actually had received an award because I came out in a magazine several years ago, and I think that's why she's asking, because it's somebody that attended that event. And what they wanted me to talk about is, you know, my immigration story, and really it's one of being with an undocumented status as a kid. We crossed over when I was about a year old, so it was in '86, and we literally crossed the Rio, the Rio Grande River. My dad was swimming, my mom and I were in the tube, and we ended up crossing over. We didn't really have family in the United States, so my parents literally built everything, you know, ground up. I was undocumented until I was probably like 4 years old, and I became a resident. And a lot of it, and this is something that I always talk about because people like to say like hard work, right? You succeed because of a hard work. But if it was honestly only hard work, you would have a lot more millionaires in America, right? Because we all have, whether it's our parent, our spouse, uncle, you know, people that have worked really hard. You see my dad right now, like he has literally toasted skin because he's worked in the sun his entire life. And he's not a millionaire yet, right? So I always say everything's a mix of hard work and luck. And by luck, I mean, if an opportunity arises, you take advantage of it, right? So for us, where the luck came in is that just when we had crossed over, I think a few months later, that's when Reagan passed that amnesty. And that's how my dad became a resident. And thankfully, we became residents later on. But because of our undocumented status, we did grow up very, very poor. Sometimes when I talk about this, like people don't believe that, and I'm like, no, but like this happens a lot. Like we grew up in a home where we had dirt floors. We didn't have electricity for a long time, so yes, we used to sometimes get it from the neighbor, right, con la extensión, que te pasaban la luz. Also, we didn't have plumbing for a long time, so what we would do is we had to go to a restroom in a bucket of water, and my parents would go dispose of it in the back, like way in the back yard, and we would come back, and it was like that for a long time. So I did grow up in extreme poverty, and especially in South Texas, and a lot of it has to do because of the politics, you know, very conservative, a lot of like don't help the poor and stuff. So a lot of the times you're stuck living in that life. And I feel like it causes traumas in life, but at the same time, it can make you very strong. So me, I feel like even though sometimes I get very anxious about things to happen, I know that if something goes bad, I'm fine. I'm gonna survive. I've been through worse. Like what? Like I used to poop in a bucket of water. Like, you know, like, so like things, you can always fix them. What helped me, I think, what helped us in our family is that my parents were both a very good team. They always support each other, very, very good team. And for them, they always pushed for their kids to go to school, but also they were always very involved. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and like she was there, hiciste la tarea, hiciste esto y lo otro. So I think that's what she was talking about, that she wanted to know a little bit more of that, because it was just a life, a lot of poverty and undocumented status. But like I said, a mix of good luck and hard work helped us get out of there. But people that go through that can end up being successful, can end up doing great things. My husband and I are so lucky that we're thankfully in a different tax bracket now. And one of the very important things for us is to help people, to help especially our community, people that are just going through that, what we went through. And I think that helps us keep our feet on the ground a lot of the time.
Oh yeah. No, I think we're blessed to live in Oregon, because I know that we have like a lot of those programs, because I guess we're not as I forgot what word you used, but
Well, Oregon is, when I first noticed this is, my husband is from California, and he would tell me about his neighborhood where he grew up and stuff. I imagine this like crazy place, y like la gente ahí tirada, like, you know, I just imagine it really bad. Texas, especially South Texas where I grew up, and there's a lot of poverty because there's a lot of also people that are undocumented. It's very common to have 2-3 families living in one household, which means you share your rooms, right? Like, and because a lot of their politics, which is probably the only thing I don't miss from Texas moving here, is that you don't have a lot of social nets that help you, you know. And there's some, right? But it's still just very difficult. Like sometimes you go to neighborhoods and you're like, am I in the United States? This looks like third world country. Sometimes there's people that can't get out of their house and get out of their neighborhood because it's not paved and it's just mud. So if it rains, if there's a storm, they can get out of there. The kids miss school.
really, and
They
it's
can't
still
go
like
to
that.
school. Yeah, and there's still places like that.
Wow.
So when I went to California and my husband shows me his neighborhood, I'm like, what? Like, this is like the neighborhood? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, but it's nice. Like, you have paved roads. The apartments still look pretty good. Over there, you still have shacks sometimes, de madera. I had an aunt who was living in a trailer that didn't have anything on top. They had to put madera, but if it rains, it gets through, you know? And Texas allows that to happen. And something that I've noticed about Oregon, which is something that I think a lot of Oregonians should actually be very proud of, is that you do take care of those in need. And I know a lot of the times we think about like, oh, okay, yeah, but it costs us money, this and that. And that's why I think like one of the worst problems in the world right now is that we lack empathy. Like they taught us not to have empathy for the other person. But in Oregon, if you see someone in poverty, they're still struggling, but at least they're living in a humane household or area. And in Texas, it's very different a lot of the times.
Interesting.
I
Interesting.
know that, yeah.
It's interesting how we're in the same country and there's just different struggles like that, and we just don't know about it.
Yes, I just wish, you know, like, especially right now, right, with everything political going on, I just wish that one thing that we could agree on, like, whatever, you know, we do, whatever party we're from, is that one thing is that we take care of our vulnerable. Because at the end of the day, who are the ones living in poverty? If you look at the percentage, it's women and children, right? Because you have a lot of single mothers living in poverty, a lot of single mothers that don't have households, and with them comes a lot of children. So it's like if we're not taking care of them, the most vulnerable, like who are we, right? Like we all, I feel like our only job in life is to make, this place a better place. And like I said, my husband and I, thankfully, we're doing so well. So that's one thing that we always have to remember. Sometimes we're like, oh my God, like life is great. But then we always have to remember where you came from. There's still people out there that need that help.
Jeez,
So,
yeah.
So please, more empathy in this world.
That's right.
I feel like we have been taught to not care about or thy neighbor, right? And I think that's one of the struggles in America right now.
Thank you for answering that question. Second question was, they want to know who can attend OCW, Oregon Conferences for Women.
Great question. So this is actually open to any woman that might want to attend. I also get questions about men. Can we attend? I always say we're not going to kick you out, but just know that it's the female experience behind everything we do. So really the ones that will probably get the most out of it is if you're a business owner, if you're a professional woman, or if you're a leader somewhere. You're going to get a lot out of this. But this basically entails all kind of women, because if you're a stay-at-home mom, guess what? You lead a household. There's skills that you're going to have to learn, right? Or you'll be better off if you learn certain skills. So honestly, we love to open it to all kinds of women. But the majority of the people that attend are professional women and also business owners.
Is there anything that you want to tell people that follow OCW or that may be interested in that?
No, I think really what I want to focus on is just encouraging women to go out there. Most of the messages we actually get on our Instagram is, I don't know anybody, can I just attend, or would it be weird? I had somebody ask a question like, oh, I really want to attend this event, but I don't have anyone to go with. Do not worry. Everybody there is actually very friendly. We had our first conference and we had activities where you get to know other people. By the end of the day, we had an activity where everybody left with 2 coffee dates. So you already, we had time to even put it in the schedule and stuff. So everybody made at least 2 new friends, right? That they even met for coffee afterwards. So if you don't know anybody, if you're kind of shy, do not worry. We'll make sure that you're networking with other people. And that's kind of my job the day of. I'm the one who does all the logistics part. I have somebody that takes care, Sarah takes care of logistics, which she's amazing. And then we have Luz also, who takes care of our social media. And for me, I take care of our programmatic side. So how the program's going to run. But also one of my main things is I like to be out there seeing how people are gathering, getting together. Y si no voy, me meto. I go meet somebody new and like, hey, guess what? Have you met, Sarah? Get to meet her and stuff. And that's my whole job. So please don't be shy. Or if you're shy, just come, approach one of us, and we'll help you through it. If you come alone, it's still a great event to attend. So just want to let them know, because that's most of our comments or messages are around that. I don't know anybody, so I'm kind of shy to attend and stuff like that. But come, it's for everybody.
Cool. So it sounds like it's very interactive. So come and we'll figure it out.
Yes, we'll figure it out.
work.
You'll make friends for sure. That's
Okay.
one thing I can assure you of.
There we go.
Thank you guys for the support, and thank you for watching. Till next time. Peace.